My husband banned me from leaving, saying my kids abandoned me until they showed up. Before we dive into this story, I'd love to know, where are you watching this from? Drop a comment below with your location. Let's continue. Good story. I'm standing in front of a projector screen at what should be my 50th wedding anniversary party, my finger hovering over a button. The room is packed with 200 guests, all dressed in their finest. Champagne glasses raised, expecting wedding photos. Instead, they're about to watch my husband and sons planning my death, their voices cold as a winter wind through a cemetery. At 68 years old, with silver hair that I still braid every morning the way my mother taught me, I finally learned something. The tremor in my hands isn't from age. It's from 47 years of swallowing rage, of biting my tongue until it bled silence. My knuckles are white against the remote control, the plastic creaking under pressure that's been building for half a century. I spent 4 decades as a teacher, shaping young minds, giving them confidence, while my own family saw me as nothing but a wallet. There was no dramatic abandonment, no tearful goodbyes, just a slow, poisonous drift, like carbon monoxide filling a room silently. My name is Margaret Ann Thompson, but right now, even that name feels like it belongs to someone else, someone who died weeks ago, the woman I was, the one who believed in family, in loyalty, in the sanctity of marriage vows. She's gone, burned away by betrayal. Before I continue with what happened at that party, I need you to understand who's telling you this story and how I got here. Gostaria de saber quem está do outro lado me ouvindo. Comment your name and where you're watching from. It helps me so much here. And check if you're already subscribed to the channel. It really helps me continue bringing these real stories to all of you. Write in the comments where you're watching this video from. We love knowing how far our stories are reaching across this world. How did a retired teacher end up here, about to destroy her entire family in front of everyone they know? Let me take you back. 3 weeks ago, everything seemed normal. Or what I'd convinced myself was normal after years of justifying my family's coldness. I was in my garden, the one place where things still made sense, where roses bloomed because you fed and watered them, not lies. My hands were deep in the soil, dirt under my fingernails, when I heard Richard's car pull into the driveway earlier than usual. He walked out with that smile, the one I'd seen for 47 years, the one I used to think meant love, but now recognize as habit. "Margaret, we need to talk," he said, and my stomach dropped like a stone into dark water, heavy with a dread I couldn't name yet. "The boys are coming over tonight. Mark and David both," he continued, and I felt that old foolish hope bloom in my chest like poison ivy. My sons, my beautiful boys who I carried, nursed, raised, who now barely called except when they needed something or money. They hadn't visited together in over 2 years. Thanksgiving and Christmas were always too busy, too complicated, too something else. I cleaned the house top to bottom, made their favorite pot roast, set the table with the good china that hadn't seen light in years. The doorbell rang at 7 sharp, and there they were, Mark, 45, with his father's jaw and his mother's naive, trusting heart. Well, the heart I used to have before I learned that DNA doesn't guarantee loyalty and blood can run as cold as February rain. David, 42, stood beside him, and I noticed immediately how they wouldn't quite meet my eyes, kept glancing at each other. The dinner was tilted, conversation forced like pulling teeth, compliments about the food delivered in voices that sounded rehearsed. After dessert, Richard cleared his throat in that way he does when he's about to announce something he's already decided without me. "Margaret, the boys and I have been talking, and we're worried about you. You're getting older, more forgetful. We think you need help." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth, suspended in air like my breath, like my heartbeat, like the last thread of trust I had left. Forgetful? I balanced our checkbook to the penny for 47 years, never missed a birthday, never forgot a single appointment. We think it's time to consider assisted living, David added quickly, his words tumbling out like he'd practiced them in front of a mirror. Somewhere nice, somewhere you'd be taken care of, Mark chimed in, but his eyes were on his phone already mentally checked out. I looked at Richard, waiting for him to laugh, to tell them they were being ridiculous, to defend me the way husbands should defend wives. Instead, he nodded slowly, gravely, like a judge passing sentence, and I felt the ground shift beneath me like a trapdoor opening. That was the moment, sitting at my own dining table, surrounded by the people I'd given my life to, that everything started cracking. But I didn't know yet. I was still stupid enough, still hopeful enough, to think this was concern, misguided, but well-intentioned. So I smiled, I nodded, I said I'd think about it, and I watched them leave with the relief plain on their faces, like they'd finished chores. The next morning, Richard sat me down again, this time with papers, documents about power of attorney, about healthcare decisions. Just a precaution, he said, his hand on mine, his touch now feeling like a spider crawling across my skin, delicate and dangerous. I signed because after 47 years of marriage, you trust, you believe, you assume that promises made still mean something today. That afternoon, Richard told me he thought it was best if I stayed home for a while. No more garden club, no more library volunteering. You've been looking tired, he said, and I'm worried about you driving. What if you get confused and hurt yourself or someone else? My car keys disappeared from the hook by the door, and when I asked about them, Richard said he'd put them somewhere safe for now. Days passed, then a week, and I realized the doors were locked from the outside. I couldn't leave, even if I tried to walk out. I'm protecting you, Richard explained when I confronted him, his voice patient like I was a difficult child who needed to understand rules. The boys think it's best too, until we figure out the next steps. And you know how much they worry about their mother, right? I stood at the window like a prisoner, watching take bears walk their dogs, watching life happen outside while I was trapped inside my own home. That's when Emily showed up, my granddaughter, David's daughter, 23 years old, with fire in her eyes and truth on her tongue. She slipped in through the back door while Richard was at work, moved through the house like a ghost carrying secrets too heavy to hold. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice breaking, "I need to show you something, and I need you to stay calm. I need you to be strong." She handed me a phone, not mine, which Richard had taken weeks ago, claiming he'd get it fixed, but a new one, loaded with screenshots. What I saw on that screen burned into my brain like acid, eating away at every memory I'd carefully preserved of my perfect family. It was a WhatsApp group chat, family business only, with Richard, Mark, David, and someone named Carla I didn't recognize at first. The messages went back months, dozens of them, hundreds maybe, all discussing me like I was a problem to solve, not a person to love. "The old bat signed the POA today," Richard had written, followed by 3 champagne emoji and one that looked like money with wings. "How long until we can move her?" Mark asked, and my heart stopped beating, just froze solid in my chest like water in pipes. "Cheapest place I found is $800 a month, bare minimum care. She won't know the difference once we start the meds," David responded. "Meds? What meds?" My hands shook so hard, Emily had to steady the phone, her own tears falling hot onto my wrists like small burns. "She's always been senile, just need to make it official for the courts," Richard wrote, and I remembered every dinner I'd cooked perfectly. "Carla says once she's in the home, we forged the will update. House, savings, everything splits 4 ways," Mark's message read clearly. "Carla? Who was Carla?" I scrolled up, my stomach churning like a washing machine, full of stones and broken glass and shattered dreams. There were photos. Richard, with a woman I'd never seen, her arm around his waist, both of them laughing at what looked like a restaurant. My fiancé and I appreciate your Mother's generous donation to our future, the caption read, and the date was from 2 months ago. Fiancé? While I was still sleeping next to him, cooking his meals, washing his clothes, believing we were partners in life together. She was always a burden, just a womb and a wallet, David had written, and I felt something inside me die, reading my son's words. Remember when she cried at my graduation? So embarrassing. Like we owed her something for doing basic mom stuff, Mark added with laughing emojis. Can't wait to turn her room into my home office. Finally get some use out of that space, Richard chimed in, already redecorating. I read for hours while Emily sat beside me, her hand gripping mine, both of us crying silently in the afternoon light filtering through curtains. There were voice recordings, too. Emily had been secretly recording family dinners she wasn't supposed to hear, gathering evidence like a spy. In one, Richard's voice was clear as church bells on Sunday morning. She'll be dead in a year, 2 tops. Then it's all ours. What if she lives longer? David asked, his tone worried like someone discussing a bad investment that won't pay off on schedule. Carla's got contacts, nursing homes where things move faster if you know what I mean, Richard replied, and my blood turned to ice. They were planning to kill me, not with their hands, but with neglect, with the wrong medications, with turning their backs while I suffered. My own husband, the man I trusted with my life, was planning my death like people plan vacations, with the same casual attention to detail. My sons, the babies I'd nursed through colic and fevers, were counting down days until I was gone so they could split my assets. Grandma, Emily's voice broke through my spiral. There's more. Carla isn't just Dad's mistress. She's his first wife from before you existed. What? My voice came out strangled. Barely human, more animal sound than actual words forming coherent thought from this chaos inside my head. Emily showed me documents she'd found. Marriage certificate from 1972. Divorce papers from 1974. Life insurance payout from 1975. Richard told everyone Carla died, collected $200,000 in insurance money, but she's alive. She faked her death for the payout. They've been together this whole time, on and off, using you for your teacher's pension, your inheritance from your parents' estate. Your marriage was bigamy. He never actually divorced her legally, just made her disappear on paper while keeping her in the shadows. Everything I built my life on was a lie. 47 years of marriage that wasn't real. A family that existed only to drain me dry. I sat there in my locked house, a prisoner in my own home pit, holding evidence of a conspiracy so cruel it could have been fiction. But it wasn't fiction. It was my life, my family, my husband, all revealed as actors playing roles while I was the fool believing the show. Emily grabbed my shoulders, made me look at her. Grandma, we're going to fix this, but you have to stay calm. Pretend nothing changed. If they know you know, they'll move faster. I heard Dad talking about committing you, saying you're having delusions, paranoid fantasies. So I became an actress too, the role of my life, playing the confused, compliant old woman while I plotted my own resurrection. For 3 weeks I smiled when Richard came home, thanked him for protecting me, acted grateful for my prison with the bars made of lies. I took the pills he gave me, anxiety medication he claimed, but I palmed them, spit them out, saved them in a jar as evidence. Emily snuck in daily with her key, brought me my real medications, helped me document everything, built a case that would bury them all. We found the forged will in Richard's office desk. My signature, my death date left blank. Everything split between him and the boys. We found bank statements showing they'd been draining my accounts for months, little by little, thinking I wouldn't notice small amounts. We found emails to nursing homes asking about costs, about how fast patients typically declined, about what happens to unclaimed bodies. Every piece of evidence was a nail in their coffin, and I hammered each one in with the steady patience of someone who taught school. You don't survive 40 years with teenagers by being impulsive. You learn to plan, to wait, to strike when the moment is absolutely right. The 50th anniversary party was Richard's idea. He wanted to celebrate in front of everyone, wanted the appearance of a devoted husband. What better cover for a man planning to widow himself than throwing his wife a lavish party, proving he loved her to everyone watching? I agreed immediately, enthusiastically even, and watched his face relax with relief that I was still the fool he thought I'd always been. Emily and I planned every detail while I played the doting wife, excited about celebration, grateful for his generosity in planning this. The venue, the caterers, the guest list of 200 people, all their friends, our family, everyone who knew us as the perfect couple. Richard wanted a slideshow of our wedding photos, our life together, evidence of our great love story that everyone should admire and envy. I told him I'd handle it, spent hours scanning photos, editing videos, and he never once asked to preview it, too confident in my compliance. The party was beautiful. White roses everywhere, champagne flowing like water, guests arriving in their finest clothes for our special night. Richard looked handsome in his tuxedo, played the devoted husband perfectly, his hand on my back like a brand burning through my dress. Mark and David arrived with their wives, who I noticed now had that same calculating look in their eyes when they glanced at my jewelry. Carla was there too, as a guest, introduced as an old friend of the family, standing in my house like she had every right to exist. She wore red, bold as blood, and when she looked at me, her smile was pitying, like I was already dead, already forgotten history. Speeches happened first. Richard stood up, glass raised, talking about our wonderful life together, his voice dripping with false emotion. My devoted wife, my partner, the mother of my children, he said, and I watched people dab at their eyes, moved by his performance. Mark spoke next about what a wonderful mother had been, how lucky they were to have me, and I tasted bile rising in my throat. Then it was my turn. I stood slowly, deliberately, feeling every single one of my 68 years in my bones and my rage. Thank you all for coming to celebrate with us tonight, I began, my voice steady, despite my heart hammering against my ribs like fists. Richard wanted to show you our beautiful life together through photos, and I've prepared something special that really captures our truth. I clicked the remote, and the lights dimmed, the projector glowed to life, and 200 people turned to watch the screen expectantly. But instead of wedding photos, they saw Richard's face, huge and clear, sitting in our kitchen talking to Mark and David last week. She signed everything over. The stupid bitch doesn't have a clue. His voice boomed through speakers, and the room went absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop, heard heartbeat stopping, heard the exact moment when comfortable lies shattered into sharp truth everywhere. The video continued. Mark's voice. How long until we can dump her in that place? David. Carla says the cheapest home is perfect. I watched Richard's face drain of color, watched him stand up, mouth opening and closing like a fish drowning in air instead of water. Stop this right now, he shouted. but his voice was drowned out by the video of him laughing about my impending death. The next clip showed text messages, enlarged so everyone could read. The old bat is so senile, she'll never know we're stealing everything. Can't wait to split the house money. I've got my eye on a boat. Mark's message appeared, and I heard his wife gasp beside him. David's wife stood up, her face pale, staring at the screen showing her husband writing, "Mom was always a burden. Good riddance." Then came the recordings, audio of them discussing which nursing home would help things along, which places had the highest death rates. Richard's voice, crystal clear. "She'll be dead in a year, 2 tops. Then Carla and I can finally live openly together without this charade." Gasps rippled through the crowd like wind through wheat fields. Phones coming out. People filming now, capturing every second of this destruction. I clicked to the next section. Documents appearing on screen. Marriage certificate from 1972 between Richard Thompson and Carla Morrison. Death certificate from 1975, life insurance payout form, and then photos of Carla alive and well in 1976, 1980, 1990, all the way to today. Insurance fraud, bigamy, conspiracy to commit murder through neglect, I announced calmly, like I was teaching a history lesson to my class. I turned to look at Carla, whose red dress suddenly looked like a confession. "Did you enjoy pretending to be dead while stealing my life?" The screen changed again. Financial records showing systematic theft from my accounts, forged signatures, transfers to offshore accounts. Every transaction highlighted, dated, tracked. Proof of years of planned financial abuse while they smiled to my face and called me family. "I've transferred everything I own to my granddaughter Emily as of 3 weeks ago," I continued, and watched their faces crumble into ash. The house, the savings, my teacher's pension, my inheritance, it's all protected now in a trust they can't touch, can't steal, can't claim. I also canceled all health insurance policies covering anyone in this room with my last name, effective tomorrow morning at midnight exactly. And I filed criminal complaints with the district attorney's office. Copies of everything you're seeing tonight were delivered this morning. As if on cue, police officers entered through the back doors. Emily had arranged it perfectly, timing their arrival for maximum dramatic effect. Richard lunged for me, but officers intercepted him, hands going behind his back, Miranda rights being read while guests filmed everything. "You can't do this," he screamed, his face red with rage and panic. The mask finally off, the monster visible to everyone watching tonight. I smiled at him, really smiled for the first time in weeks. "I can't." I did, and you're going to pay for every single lie you ever told me. Mark and David were being handcuffed too. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted financial abuse of a vulnerable adult. The officers listed charges calmly. Their wives were crying, not for me but for themselves, for their reputations crumbling, for their comfortable lives built on my planned death. Carla tried to run, but more officers were at every exit. She had warrants in 3 states for fraud, forgery, and that faked death claim. She was still legally married to Richard when he married me, which made our marriage null and void, which meant he had no claim to anything. Turns out, when you fake your death for insurance money and resurface decades later, the statute of limitations is surprisingly forgiving. The DA is charging her with insurance fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit elder abuse, I announced to the room full of witnesses. As for Richard and my sons, they're facing up to 15 years each for what they did, what they planned, what they almost succeeded in doing. The party guests were frozen, phones out, recording every second, and I knew by morning this would be everywhere. Viral, unstoppable truth spreading. I turned to face them all. Let this be a lesson. Underestimate old women at your own peril. We've survived worse than you can imagine. We've buried parents, raised ungrateful children, endured wars and recessions and losses, and we're still here, still standing, still fighting. You thought I was weak because I was kind, thought I was stupid because I trusted, thought I was finished because I was 68. But I taught high school for 40 years. You think teenage manipulation is worse than what I've seen? You think you could outsmart me? I watched Richard being led away in handcuffs, and instead of sadness, I felt something close to peace settling over me like fresh snow. Mark was screaming about lawyers. David was crying like he used to when he was 6 and broke something valuable and thought tears would fix it. Carla was silent, calculating even in custody, probably already planning her defense, but the evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable, crushing. By the next morning, videos from the party were everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, news outlets picking up the viral story. Woman exposes husband's murder plot at anniversary party. The headlines read, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing with the interview requests. I went on talk shows, did interviews, became the face of elder abuse awareness, while my family rotted in jail awaiting trial dates. Richard's bail was set at $500,000. Money he didn't have anymore because I transferred everything beyond his reach into Emily's trust. Mark lost his job when the videos went viral. His company not wanting the PR nightmare of employing someone who called his mother a burden. David's wife filed for divorce within 48 hours, taking their kids, refusing to let them see a father who plotted his own mother's death. Their friends abandoned them. Their social circles collapsed. Their lives imploded exactly the way they'd planned mine to implode, under neglect. The nursing homes they'd contacted were investigated, several shut down for suspicious death rates, proving my instincts had been absolutely right. I kept the house, the one they'd already mentally divided up, redecorated, planned to sell for boats and vacations and freedom from me. Their old bedrooms, I converted them into a cat sanctuary, took in strays, gave them the love and care my sons never deserved from me. Every donation box has their mugshots printed on it. Help cats abandoned by cruel humans. Donate to give them the love they deserve. People think it's petty, but I call it justice with a sense of humor. Something I learned from decades of dealing with difficult teenagers. The trial was devastating for them. Evidence piled so high the judge actually laughed when Richard's lawyer tried to claim misunderstanding. Voice recordings don't lie. Financial documents don't misinterpret. Forged wills don't accidentally happen, the judge said during sentencing. Richard got 12 years for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted abuse of a vulnerable adult, plus restitution he'll never be able to pay. Mark got 8 years, David got 10 because he'd been stealing from me longer, and Carla got 15 for her decades of fraud across states. Their appeals were denied. Their pleas for mercy fell on deaf ears, and I slept better than I had in years, knowing they couldn't hurt me. I was sitting in my garden 6 months later, hands in the soil, like the day this all began, when Emily came by with coffee and news. "Grandma," she said, sitting beside me in the sunshine, "you've gotten over 3 million views across all platforms. You're kind of famous." "Famous for what?" I asked, pulling weeds with the same methodical patience I'd used to destroy my family's plans for my destruction. For showing people that being old doesn't mean being helpless, that women can fight back, that family doesn't get to abuse you just because you're related. I've gotten thousands of messages from other elderly people who were being abused, who saw my story and found the courage to speak up. Shelters and legal aid societies are reporting increased calls from seniors reporting abuse using my case as evidence, it can be successfully prosecuted. I didn't set out to be a hero, I told Emily honestly. I just refused to die quietly to make their lives more convenient and profitable. But you are a hero, she insisted, her hand on mine. You saved yourself when everyone told you to just trust family, to just accept it. You taught me something important, she continued, that blood doesn't make family, that sometimes the people who should love you are the ones hurting you most. I looked at her, this fierce young woman who'd risked her father's wrath to save me, and I felt grateful for at least one decent person in my family. The irony isn't lost on me. David tried to kill me for my money, but his daughter saved me and got everything he wanted anyway. She's using the trust fund to finish medical school, to help other abuse victims, to do good with money that was meant to fund their greed. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh, if I should have shown mercy, if destroying them completely was the right choice or just revenge. Then I remember those messages. Senile burden, can't wait till she dies. Stupid bitch doesn't suspect anything. And Mercy disappears. I remember Richard looking at properties with Carla while I made his favorite dinner, while I washed his clothes, while I believed our vows. I remember my sons laughing about turning my bedroom into an office before I was even dead, counting money that wasn't theirs yet to take, and I realized that mercy would have meant letting them win, letting them kill me slowly with neglect and stolen medications and abandonment. Justice isn't pretty, isn't clean, isn't comfortable for anyone involved, but it's necessary when the alternative is becoming a victim. People ask me if I feel guilty about putting my own family in prison, and I tell them honestly, I feel relieved, I feel safe, I feel free. For the first time in decades, I don't have to perform, don't have to pretend, don't have to make myself smaller to make them comfortable. I can breathe without wondering if someone is planning my death. I can sleep without one eye open. I can exist without justifying space. The house is quiet now. Just me and 17 cats who actually appreciate the food I give them, the care I provide, the love I offer. My garden has never been more beautiful. Roses blooming like they understand freedom too, like they feel the absence of poisonous energy. I volunteer at a senior center now, teaching other elderly people about financial abuse warning signs, about protecting themselves legally. Emily comes by every Sunday for dinner, real family time, not performances or obligations, just two people who genuinely care about each other. Sometimes I see Richard's photo in news articles about elder abuse, his face used as a cautionary tale, and I feel nothing, not even satisfaction. He's already dead to me, dead the moment I saw those messages, dead the moment he locked me in my own home, dead before he went to prison. The man I married died decades ago, if he ever existed at all, and the stranger wearing his face deserved everything he got and more. People ask if I believe in forgiveness, if I think there's redemption for what they did, if family deserves second chances despite everything. I tell them forgiveness is for people who are sorry, and you can't be sorry for something you'd absolutely do again if given the opportunity. Redemption requires remorse, and they're only sorry they got caught, sorry they underestimated me, sorry they didn't move faster before I woke up. Family who treats you like garbage doesn't deserve chances, doesn't deserve access, doesn't deserve anything but the consequences they earned. I spent 68 years learning to stand up for myself, and I'm not about to waste my remaining years making peace with people who wanted me dead. Life is too short to forgive the unforgivable, too precious to waste on people who see you as an obstacle instead of a human being. I'm 70 now, 2 years since that anniversary party that destroyed my family and saved my life in one devastating public spectacle. The cats are thriving, the garden is gorgeous, Emily is in her residency, and I sleep like a baby every single night without fear. I've written a book about my experience. It's being published next month, with all proceeds going to elder abuse prevention programs nationwide. The title, Underestimate Me at Your Peril: How I Buried the Family That Tried to Bury Me First. It has a nice ring to it, don't you think? I'm doing speaking engagements at senior centers, women's groups, legal conferences, anywhere people will listen to my story and learn from it. Not everyone can fight back the way I did. Not everyone has an Emily. Not everyone has evidence. Not everyone has resources or strength. But maybe hearing my story gives them hope, gives them ideas, gives them the courage to at least try, instead of accepting their fate quietly. The DA's office uses my case in training now. It's the example they show prosecutors of how to build elder abuse cases that actually stick. Defense attorneys use it too, apparently, as a cautionary tale about what happens when you underestimate your victim and leave evidence everywhere. Richard writes me letters from prison. They go straight in the trash, unopened, because nothing he could say would matter even slightly now. Mac's wife remarried, David's ex-wife moved across country, and their children are being raised by people who actually understand what love means. Carla is fighting extradition to 2 other states where she has warrants, and I hear through legal channels that she's not winning that fight. They'll all be old themselves by the time they get out of prison, if they live that long, if karma doesn't find them first behind bars. Part of me hopes they live long enough to feel what they tried to do to me. The loneliness, the abandonment, the knowing nobody cares. But mostly, I don't think about them at all anymore, because they don't deserve space in my head, don't deserve my emotional energy or time. I am too busy living, really living for the first time in decades, not just existing in service of people who saw me as an ATM with legs. My garden club meets every Thursday, my book club every Tuesday, and I'm taking painting classes because I always wanted to but never had time. Time I spent serving a family that despised me. Time I spent cooking and cleaning and caring for people, counting days until I died. Now that time is mine. Every hour, every minute, every second belongs to me and nobody else, and I protect it fiercely like the treasure it is. People say I'm inspiring, but I'm just a woman who refused to die conveniently, who fought back with the only weapons I had available: intelligence, patience, evidence, and the element of the surprise. Turns out that's all you need to take down a conspiracy built on underestimating you. Sometimes late at night when the house is quiet and the cats are sleeping, I think about the woman I was before all this happened. She was kind, trusting, willing to believe the best in people, willing to overlook red flags because family means you give infinite chances. That woman is gone now, and I don't mourn her because she was heading toward death without even knowing the gun was already loaded. The woman I am now is harder, sharper, less willing to accept bullshit disguised as love, and I prefer her honestly to who I was before. You can call it cynicism if you want, but I call it wisdom earned through betrayal, through survival, through refusing to be a victim silently. My mother used to say, "Margaret, you're too soft. The world will chew you up and spit you out if you don't grow thorns like a rose." She was right, and it took me 68 years and a murder conspiracy to finally grow those thorns. But better late than never, right? Now I'm the rose with thorns so sharp they drew blood, and anyone who tries to pick me without respect will learn that lesson painfully. I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about it before you answer me honestly in the comments below this video. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you loved? Someone you trusted completely? Someone who was supposed to protect you, but it destroyed you instead? Did you fight back? Or did you accept it? Or are you still stuck in that moment, wondering if you're crazy for feeling hurt and angry? Because here's what I learned. Your feelings are valid, your anger is justified, and you don't owe forgiveness to people who aren't sorry. You don't owe chances to people who see you as an obstacle. You don't owe loyalty to people who would celebrate your death for profit. Do you think I went too far destroying my family completely? Should I have shown mercy even though they showed me none when planning my death? If you discovered the people who raised you had always despised you, that your entire life was a lie, could you forgive or would you fight? Have you ever had to choose between being nice and being safe, between keeping peace and keeping your dignity, between family and survival? I chose survival, chose dignity, chose myself for the first time in my entire life. And I'm asking you now, was I wrong to fight back? Thank you for listening to my story all the way to the end, for staying with me through every painful revelation and every moment of truth. This is my real story, every word true, and these are stories of real people who went through extreme situations and found strength to continue. If this story touched you in any way, please subscribe to the channel. I post real stories of survival, revenge, and justice every week here. And tell me in the comments, have you lived through something similar? What would you have done in my place? I love reading your stories too. Please share your thoughts, your experiences, your advice for others going through what I went through. Community is how we survive this together. Click on the videos appearing on your screen now for more emotional stories that will make you think, make you feel, make you question everything. Stories about survival, about fighting back, about refusing to be victims, about finding strength you didn't know you had when everything collapses. I'll be back next week with another story, another person who refused to accept their fate quietly. Another example of justice finally being served. Until then, remember this. Being old doesn't mean being helpless. Being kind doesn't mean being weak. And being family doesn't excuse abuse. Stand up for yourself. Protect yourself. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong, because usually your gut is right even when you want it to be wrong. And never, ever let anyone make you feel crazy for noticing patterns, for seeing red flags, for questioning people who should love you unconditionally. Love doesn't steal from you, doesn't lock you up, doesn't count down the days until you die so they can profit from your absence. Real love protects, real love cherishes, real love shows up even when it's inconvenient, even when there's no inheritance to claim. I found that love with Emily, with my cats, with my garden, with the senior center friends who actually care if I'm alive or dead. And I lost nothing of value when I lost Richard, Margaret, and David. I only gained freedom from people who were slowly poisoning my life. The house feels bigger now without their negativity, without their lies, without the weight of their hatred disguised as concern for my welfare. Every room breathes easier, every corner holds peace instead of secrets, every wall has witnessed my transformation from victim to survivor. I redecorated their rooms before turning them into the cat sanctuary, painted over their childhood colors, erased their presence completely. It felt good, therapeutic even, watching their identities disappear under fresh paint while rescue cats found safety in spaces they never deserved. The irony is beautiful. They wanted this house so badly, they were willing to kill me for it, and now it's a shelter for the abandoned. Every cat here was thrown away by someone who should have loved them, and I make sure they know they're safe now, valued now, wanted now. We're all survivors here, Me and these 17 cats. All of us learning to trust again after betrayal. All of us healing in our own time. I've started a YouTube channel too. Emily's idea. Documenting my journey, sharing advice, reading letters from other abuse survivors worldwide. It's strange being 70 years old and learning to use technology to edit videos, to engage with comments from people across the globe. But it's also empowering, knowing my voice reaches thousands of people who need to hear that fighting back is possible, is justified, is necessary. Last week, a woman in Texas left her abusive son's house after watching my videos, took her pension, and moved across the country to safety. She sent me flowers with the note. You saved my life by showing me I wasn't crazy, wasn't ungrateful, wasn't wrong to want better. That's worth more than any apology Richard could ever give me. Worth more than any reconciliation with sons who never actually loved me. I'm making a difference, helping people, using my nightmare to prevent other people's nightmares. And that gives the meaning to everything I endured. The speaking engagements are getting bigger. Last month I spoke at a national conference on elder abuse to over 2,000 people in attendance. Standing on that stage, looking at faces listening intently to my story, I felt powerful in a way I never felt in 47 years of marriage. Richard tried to silence me, tried to make me disappear, tried to reduce me to a problem that needed solving, but instead I became louder. I became visible. I became heard. I became the nightmare of every abuser who thinks their elderly victims are too weak to fight back. And I'm not done. Yet there's legislation being proposed in 3 states using my case as evidence for stronger elder abuse protections. Margaret's Law, they're calling it. And the first time I heard that, I cried because my name means something now, something good, something helpful. Not just wife, not just mother, not just victim, but Margaret. A person who mattered enough to have laws named after her courage. The lawyer who helped me through everything says I should feel proud, but mostly I just feel relieved that something good came from something horrible. I'm planning a trip next month. First vacation in over a decade. Going to Ireland because I always wanted to see it, and now nobody can stop me. Emily's coming with me, and we're going to visit castles and drink in pubs and laugh without looking over our shoulders for people who hate us. Freedom tastes sweet after being imprisoned, after being controlled, after spending years walking on eggshells in your own home to keep false peace. I eat ice cream for breakfast sometimes. Now, just because I can, just because there's no Richard telling me it's unhealthy and inappropriate, I stay up until 3 in the morning, reading if I want to, sleep until noon if my body needs it, live by my own rules for the first time ever. Small rebellions, maybe, but they feel revolutionary after decades of molding myself to fit other people's expectations and impossible standards. I've started painting portraits of the cats. Terrible paintings, honestly, but they make me happy. And that's all that matters at this point. Happiness for its own sake. Joy without justification. Peace without having to earn it through service. These are my goals now in life. Richard's lawyer contacted me 6 months ago asking if I'd consider writing a letter supporting early release for good behavior in prison. I laughed so hard I nearly choked, then wrote back a single sentence. He showed me no mercy. He gets none in return. Good behavior doesn't erase attempted murder, doesn't undo 47 years of lies, doesn't resurrect the woman I was before I knew the truth. That woman is dead, killed by the man asking for mercy now. And I owe him nothing but the satisfaction of knowing hell served his full sentence. Mark writes occasionally, too, letters full of excuses and justifications, blaming stress, blaming society, blaming everyone except himself for his choices. He never once says, I'm sorry for trying to kill you, never acknowledges the specific harm, just vague regrets about how things turned out. How things turned out, like it was fate or accident instead of deliberate conspiracy, instead of calculated cruelty, instead of premeditated elder abuse. David stopped writing after I sent his letters back marked, "Return to sender." No forgiveness at this address in red ink across the envelope. Sometimes I wonder what they tell themselves in prison, what story they've constructed where they're victims and the villain for fighting back. Do they admit to each other what they did, or do they maintain the fiction that I overreacted, that I misunderstood, that I'm the crazy one? It doesn't matter really. Their reality doesn't change mine. Their delusions don't affect my peace. Their version of events holds no power here. I know the truth. The court knows the truth. 200 wedding guests know the truth, and millions of people online know the truth now. And the truth is simple. They tried to kill me for money. I refused to die. I fought back. I won. And now they're paying consequences. No amount of revision or excuse-making changes those basic facts, those indisputable realities, those choices they made that led to their current situation. I've been asked to write a screenplay based on my book. Hollywood producers apparently love stories about elderly women getting revenge successfully. Part of me thinks it's exploitative, but another part thinks maybe it'll help even more people see that age doesn't equal helplessness or defeat. Emily thinks I should do it, says representation matters, says seeing a 70-year-old woman win on screen could inspire millions to fight back. So I'm considering it, negotiating terms, making sure any profits go to elder abuse charities, making sure the story stays true to what actually happened, because changing it to make them more sympathetic, to soften their cruelty, to suggest I should forgive, would be a betrayal of every victim still suffering it. This isn't a story about reconciliation or family healing. It's a story about justice, about survival, about refusing to be a convenient casualty. And if that makes people uncomfortable, if that challenges their beliefs about family and forgiveness, then good. They should be uncomfortable. Comfort is what nearly killed me. The comfort of believing family loves you. The comfort of trusting without verifying. The comfort of denial. Discomfort saved my life. The discomfort of facing ugly truths. The discomfort of admitting betrayal. The discomfort of fighting when easier to surrender. I've learned to live in discomfort now, to sit with ugly feelings instead of smoothing them over with excuses and justifications for bad behavior. It's not pleasant, but it's honest. And honesty is more valuable than comfort when comfort is just another word for willful blindness to danger. My therapist says I'm doing remarkably well considering everything, but some days I still struggle with trust issues and nightmares about being trapped. I wake up sometimes convinced I'm still locked in that house, still prisoner to people who smile while planning my death, still helpless and alone. Then I hear the cats meowing for breakfast, feel Emily's contact in my phone, see the garden through my window, and reality settles over panic. I'm safe now. I'm free now. I'm in control of my own life now. And nobody can take that away from me ever again without facing consequences. The nightmares are getting less frequent, the panic attacks more manageable, and my therapist says trauma healing isn't linear, but I'm making progress. Some days I'm angry, some days I'm sad, some days I'm both, and I've learned that is normal when processing betrayal of this magnitude. What matters is I'm processing instead of suppressing, I'm feeling instead of numbing, I'm healing instead of pretending, I'm fine when I'm not. Richard's sister called me last year, crying, begging me to drop the charges, saying I'm destroying the family, tearing everyone apart. I told her the family destroyed itself when it conspired to murder me for inheritance money. and am just making sure consequences happen. She called me heartless, vindictive, cruel, and I thanked her for the compliments because those traits kept me alive when kindness nearly killed me. Heartless people don't get taken advantage of. Vindictive people fight back. Cruel people survive. And I've earned the right to be all three things. The family is divided now. Some believe Richard's version, where he was trying to help me. Others saw the videos and know the truth clearly. The ones who believe him don't contact me anymore, and I consider that a blessing, a natural calling of people not worth my time or energy. The ones who believe me reach out occasionally with apologies for not seeing it sooner, for not helping, for being complicit through silence. I accept their apologies, but keep them at arm's length because once trust is broken, that completely, it's nearly impossible to rebuild it fully. Maybe that's cynical. Maybe that's unfair, but it's self-preservation. And I've learned the hard way that self-preservation matters more than appearing nice. Nice nearly got me killed. Nice made me easy to manipulate. Nice made me the perfect victim for people who mistake kindness for stupidity. Am not nice anymore. Am kind when deserved. Am generous when earned. But am not nice just to make other people comfortable anymore. It's liberating, this freedom from performing niceness, from smoothing over awkward situations, from making myself smaller so others feel bigger. I take up space now, unapologetically, loudly, visibly. And if that makes people uncomfortable, then they can be uncomfortable somewhere else. The senior center where I volunteer has seen a 40% increase in people reporting abuse since I started doing workshops there every month. 40% more people finding their voices, finding their courage, finding their way out of situations that could have killed them eventually. That's my legacy now. Not the marriage that was a lie, not the children who betrayed me, but the lives I'm helping to save through my story. Every person who leaves an abusive situation is a victory. Every report filed is progress. Every abuser facing consequences is justice being served. And I'm at the center of it, not as a victim anymore, but as a survivor, an advocate, a voice for people who are still too scared to speak. It's strange how trauma can transform you. I went from invisible to hypervisible, from voiceless to outspoken, from victim to advocate. None of it was planned, none of it was wanted, but I'm making peace with the strange path my life took after that anniversary party explosion. I'm turning 71 next month, and Emily's planning a small celebration. Just us, a few real friends, cats, cake, and champagne for freedom. No big party, no projectors, no crowds, just people who genuinely care if I live or die, and that's all I want at this stage in life. Quality over quantity, truth over performance, authentic connection over obligatory family ties that bind you to people wishing you dead for profit. I'm writing a second book now, this one about rebuilding after betrayal, about finding yourself after decades of being defined by other people. It's harder to write than the first one because it requires more vulnerability, more admission of ongoing struggle, more honesty about not being healed. But I think it's important for people to know that survival isn't the end of the story, that justice doesn't automatically equal healing completely. Some wounds don't fully close. Some trust doesn't fully return. Some days you still mourn the family you thought you had even knowing the truth, and that's okay. You can be grateful for survival while simultaneously grieving the life you thought you'd live, the people you thought they were. Both things can be true at once, and accepting that paradox is part of healing from betrayal that cuts so deep it changed who you are forever. You'll never be the woman I was before I read those messages, before I saw those videos, before I understood how much I was hated and dehumanized. That woman is gone. And honestly, she needed to go because she was too willing to accept crumbs and call it love, to accept the neglect and call it family. The woman I am now demands more, expects more, accepts nothing less than genuine care, and walks away without guilt when people show me who they really are. Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And I wish I'd learned that lesson decades earlier in life. But better to learn it at 68 than never. Better to have 2 years of real freedom than die believing comfortable lies until the very end. So here I am at 70, with my cats and my garden and my granddaughter and my growing platform and my second book and my peace. It's not the life I planned, not the future I imagined when I married Richard at 21 with the stars in my eyes and hope in my heart. But it's my life, fully mine for the first time ever, and I'm protecting it fiercely from anyone who thinks they can take it from me again. I've learned to lock my doors, check my accounts, trust my instincts, document everything, and never again mistake manipulation for love or concern. These are hard lessons, expensive lessons, painful lessons, but they're the lessons that kept me alive when people I loved were planning my death, and I'll carry them with me for whatever time I have left, however many years or decades. I'm blessed to live freely, without fear or control. Every morning I wake up in my own home that nobody can take from me, with cats who genuinely love me, with plans I chose for myself. Every morning is a victory over people who counted on me dying quietly, who bet on my compliance, who underestimated my will to survive. Every single morning, I'm alive and free and thriving is proof that elderly people are not easy victims, not disposable problems, not burdens to eliminate. We're human beings with rights, with dignity, with value beyond our bank accounts, and anyone who forgets that will learn the lesson expensively. So to Richard, Mark, and David, wherever you are, in whatever prison cells you're rotting in, I want you to know something important today. I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still fighting. And every day I live well is a day you failed at the one thing you planned so carefully. You wanted me gone. You wanted me silent. You wanted me erased. And instead, I'm louder than ever, more visible than ever, more alive than ever before. And I'll spend every remaining day of my life making sure other people's families don't succeed where mine failed, making sure justice gets served. That's my revenge, not just your imprisonment, but my thriving, my voice, my impact, my refusal to be reduced to the footnote you wanted me to be. I am Margaret Ann Thompson. I am 70 years old, and I am just getting started with the rest of my beautifully authentic life ahead. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your caringness. Thank you for being part of this journey with me from victim to survivor to advocate and beyond. Drop a comment. Share your story. Tell me what you think. Your voices matter to me. Your experiences validate others. Your courage inspires change. And remember always, you are never too old to fight back, never too late to start over, never too broken to rebuild yourself into something stronger. Until next time, keep fighting, keep surviving, keep thriving, and never let anyone make you feel small or insignificant or disposable ever again. This is Margaret, signing off, but never shutting up, because silence almost killed me, and my voice is the weapon that saved my life completely.